Any final words you would have, all of you, for the upcoming students as to what kind of preparation they should be doing? And a lot of times, one question that they ask me is, how many hours should we be studying? And I think this is very personal. Somebody can understand in just 1 hour, and someone can take hundreds of hours. So, your last, comments on the strategies that students should be following. We'll go in the order. So we'll start with Ronak.
If I tell this about my preparation, I don't have that strategy. But I would say that just clear your basic concepts. That if you just particularly focusing on CUET, that basically asks you questions on your basics, stat, math, and basic economics, and Indian economics part is a large part of the CUET. So you have to clear your all concepts on Indian economics and the basic micro macro public economics part. So yeah, and if your basic is clear, you can build your concept on that, and that will help you to crack other exams too.
You won't believe this time CUET is in the month of March, much before the semesters are getting over, and that itself is very difficult for student to adapt. As you mentioned that you have your semester exams, and usually what happens is after semester you get a month's break to prepare for CUET, but this time it is happening much before, and that's another reason for panic. And that is why I wanted to know all of your strategies throughout the year. So what about you, Harihar? What would you like to suggest?
My suggestion would be while you people are in graduation, because since you are dealing with your semester exams, and definitely in CUT you won't be having questions from nowhere. Like it will be definitely from your syllabus only. Those basic concepts will be asked. So better you focus on whatever being taught in your graduation. Alongside, you can keep your preparation on and just stick to the syllabus. And coming to the question of how much time they should devote, so it actually varies depending upon the productivity of the candidate. Some people can do it in just 1 and 2 hours a day, and some people might take a long more time. So in that case, I would suggest better you people if you break it down and uh, make a weekly strategies and monthly plans, or you can go for daily ones also, and then you can just try to finish it and make sure you're not keeping much backlogs. And in CUET or UGC Net, I would say while preparing, you make sure you are doing PYQs. That gives you a lot of clues, like what sort of questions and from what portion of the syllabus you will be having, how many questions, so weightage, and what type of question, like the level of question you will be getting clue from. So the basic thing I would say is just start preparing from your undergrads only. As you said that CUET is going to happen this time in March. So that there won't be much time left for the people who will be just graduating this year. So better you start as early as possible if you don't want to suffer later. So it's better to start early. That's it. Now,
Right. And I think so early is now because it's already October. What about you, Udita? And also tell me, do you like everyone has different strategies? So I remember watching one video recently, and it was a beautiful thing that she said. I mean, one of the faculties, she was saying that when you're studying, put your phone on the airplane mode and put it in some cupboard and don't touch it. You will find it difficult on the first day, on the second day, but when you're on the 21st day, you will build a habit of not touching your phone for that period of time. So what do you think, what should be the strategy? And phone is a big deviation, by the way. So what do you think the students should be doing?
So I think in the first 4 semesters, when you are being taught the basics, absolutely study the text. Do not go by notes, go by text. And nowadays information is always available, that what books the best universities are following. Try to read from there. So because you need to get into the habit of reading and understanding immediately. And then I would say just because of your semester exams, whichever part you need in your semester exams, solve questions for those, at least from the back of those texts. And if you can, then of course from the previous year's question paper of say ISI, CUET, IIFT, if you have them, because then it's like you're getting your two birds with one stone, right? So you're just doing it then and there, you're getting over with, you're not starting okay competitive preparation differently, it's going in one smooth flow. That helps. Then if you're talking about specifically to study for the competitives, so I fell sick in my third year and I could not study. So my plan was different. My original plan was that every day I would take probably one small subtopic. So say quantity theory of money, or I'll just take markets, and within that I'll take like perfect competition, and then I'll study for at least 40 minutes to 1 hour, revise that, then solve the questions. And I'll do that for the whole year. That did not end up happening because of course I fell sick. So what I did at the end was that I solved papers. I immediately went to solving papers because I did not have the time to revise. So every time I stopped or I was stuck in a question, I went back and revised that portion. So that's like a shortcut, absolutely end of the day measure. Do not start by this, try to start by revising. And another thing I did was, even though I had a very limited amount of places I wanted to go to, I signed up for almost all exams because that helped me get into the habit of giving exams. So my first exam, CUET, that went really bad because I could not manage time. But my next exam, I did a lot better because then I know that I ran out of time in CUET, but now I need to keep it in mind. And the third thing I would tell is, just before exams, look at the speed distance time sums we had in 8th and 9th. Those in my year, a lot of those questions came. I don't know why, and I know it's a bit. I do not like my school maths, so it was really. I gave a little bit of a gap there, and then I had questions from there. So I think my marks did suffer in a few exams due to that. So do revise the maths portions from your 9th and 10th standard a little bit, like these problem sums, logical reasoning solvings. I think this would make sure that it's not like a burden, but you're also just like in a flow. That is, it's not suddenly that you're starting preparing for this big, huge thing known as competitive. You're just doing it alongside your studies. I hope that helps.
Right. Yes, absolutely. That is something which a lot of students have to keep in mind. It is very different to know the answer and to sit in that exam environment and then to solve the same question. I mean, once you're out, you may be able to solve it again. That yes, I know the answer. But when you are in that pressure, whether you're able to solve that question then and there, that itself is very, very different game altogether. So, before I turn to you, Ruparna, I would like to quote one more story. So I remember when I was sitting for my final entrance exams. So it was a Delhi School of Economics exam. So the hall was full of students. It was a 3-hour entrance exam. And I remember that during the first hour, almost 60 to 70% of the people just left the hall. And I knew then and there that, if I just sustain these 3 hours here, then I would be outperforming the others, because they could not even survive these 3 hours of sitting in the examination hall. So I'm pretty sure they would have not done well in their exam. And I just have to go ahead and I just have to survive these 3 hours and try to solve it, and I will clear. I was pretty sure of that. And I remember my mother used to, make this rasna for me during that time. And she used to give it to me that, you take one sip at a time and you consume this during your exam period. And it is going to just breathe out and it is going to help you to kind of survive those 3 hours. So I think surviving in that environment itself is a very difficult game. And that is what students have to learn. Okay, over to you, Ruparna. What do you think?
So my experience in competitors was similar to what has been said till now. And one of the mistakes that I made, I think, and I would recommend other people to not make, is leave things for the end. And I am the kind of person, I'm the kind of student who kind of loves preparing long hours at a stretch. I'm not the kind of person who studies small hours every day, and I just can't do it. I mean, maybe I am learning in IIFT, but that was something that I couldn't do in my college life. I did prepare before the exams very well, like before the undergrad exams very well. I prepared from all the books, like whatever CU recommended, I did all that. And that helped. But the last 2 to 3 months, I think I put like completely, I devoted to competitive preparation. So that's something I do not recommend to other people. And also, I think it's very important as a student to make your own notes, because firstly, when you make notes, don't just go by whatever is written in the text and just copying it down. I think what I used to do is I used to write my own interpretations of what was in the books, or what was taught to me in my classes. So when I did that, when I wrote the interpretations, maybe then and there in the classes I wouldn't revise or something, maybe I would skip that. But whenever I actually picked up my copy to revise, then it all came back to me because I remembered it all. So I think it's very important to make very good notes to prepare from. And also it's very important to, like Udita said, I think to sit for exams, because the more you sit for exams, the more you'll get accustomed to how to solve questions, how to actually select the correct questions to solve. Because in one of my exams, I remember I knew a lot of questions and I did a lot of them correctly, but I equally gambled on a lot of questions and I got them wrong. And that kind of, I hated that, because later on I regretted that a lot, because had I not done that, then maybe I would have got a very good score. So I think it's very important to choose your questions very wisely during the exam, to only do those questions that you're absolutely sure about, absolutely certain about, and you know that you will get it correctly. Because if you're gambling, there are consequences in competitive exams. There's no consequence in your semester exams, maybe, because it's a subjective paper. But in competitives, there's negative marking, and you should be well aware of that, because we don't really realize the consequences, the actual consequences of negative marking, before we actually fall prey to negative marking. So that is something you should keep in mind. And another thing is that just study passionately, because I have seen people who like did not like what they're doing, and they kind of thought that, okay, I'm doing this because I have to do it. And if you don't love the subject very very much, then you should not go for masters itself. That is my opinion. Because everything that you are studying in your undergrads will be twice or even thrice harder in your masters. And you have to keep up with that pace, and you also have to survive on your own notes and not tuitions or anything, because you won't get any of that in masters. You have to survive on your own. So that is also my strategy. As for the number of hours that I devoted, like I said, I used to study very long hours, because I used to study at a stretch. That used to motivate me, because I have to study. Whenever I studied all the time that I got. Like I studied 14-15 hours, and I took breaks in between. I did not touch my phone, like you said, ma'am, because I believe that when I actually study, it's such a last minute thing that I don't get time to use phones or resort to any distractions or anything. So those 3 months, or the months before my undergrad exams, I used to devote completely to studying, to note making and everything. So I think everybody else should just the hours that you're studying, be completely devoted to what you're doing, be passionate about what you're doing, and know what you're doing. Don't just resort to rote learning, because there's absolutely no sympathy for that in competitive exams. So that is my advice. I hope everybody likes it.
I think it's very well put. And maybe someday it would be a good counseling session with you, with students, where you can go ahead and tell them as to what exactly they should be doing. But I kind of loved this point that you highlighted, that this is not a subjective exam. This is a competitive exam where it is going to matter when you gamble with questions and when you mark them incorrectly. Negative marking, I mean, it's worse than knowing the answer and marking it correctly. You should not gamble, at least with the questions. So very very nicely put, Ruparna. So with this, we can come to an end for this session. I think it was an excellent session, and I didn't know while I was talking to you individually that somehow all of you are connected with each other in some ways. You have been in the same graduation college or in the same master's college. So it's good to know that all of you know each other already, and I am the new person here. But thank you so much for your time, and I hope that we keep doing such sessions even in the future. Thank you.